Hello, and we are live. Thank you so much if you're joining us on the live or any point during this discussion. And I'm really thrilled and excited to start this series of lives with my dear friend and colleague, Bridget Long. I'll talk about her in a moment. But this is the very pilot sort of first episode, if you like. We're going to be covering the topic or the theme of perspectives on expanded consciousness and living life more joyfully and what that means. Without further ado, I'm going to say, how I met Bridget. So Bridget crossed my path really at a time when I was at a crossroads myself. And I was just coming out of a 5-year business, a coffee shop business. And it was after I'd lost pretty much a whole pension in a second coffee shop endeavour in Cardiff. So £70,000 wiped out straight almost overnight. And then also I lost my mother, my dear mother. And I learned quite lots of lessons from that. And I think, we'll touch on this later on in the series, but from adversity, I think, springs a blossom or is a seed, certainly of growth, of inner development. And that really is, I think, most of us on this sort of inner journey, this inner transformation journey, it requires sometimes a really big knock for us to wake up. And we'll talk about waking up and drifting also in due course. So it's been a wake-up call for me. And as I said, I was coming out of that. And I really didn't know what I was doing or what I was starting to wonder what my life was all about. And I came across, and it was presented to me, and another network marketing business was presented to me whilst I was running the coffee shop, but I wasn't really in the frame. My capacity was so overloaded. I was so swamped with all the responsibilities I was taking on. I just didn't have the space or the time to look at it. But actually coming out of that business, I was actually at a point where I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow. And as I say, the universe, it does show when you most need the change and the challenge. And and I was introduced to, so a friend of mine had reached out and she said, listen, take a look at this opportunity and meet my upline, Bridget Long. So that's how I got to meet Bridget. And since that day, when was it? I can't even remember, it was 2015, 2016. It was that long ago. Our paths have crossed and we've become intertwined. Even though we've sort of done our own things, we always can't seem to find ways to come back together. And yeah, definitely. And I think it's like birds of a feather flock together. And it is, you do gravitate to people that, you feel a synchronicity, a sort of an energy resonance with, because I talk a lot about energy. And ever since I studied, and that's, meeting Bridget really started me on this self-development path, because that's the beauty of being involved in a network marketing company. You get the opportunity to learn a lot about yourself. You are mentored. You get a reading list. And I started reading, I think one of the first books was As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And that really started to wake me up. And I think the biggest truth that we can learn is that we create our reality from within. And, just by changing that, taking that switch, we start engineering or creating or designing our life. And we make the choices. It's down on us, not on anybody else, to create a life that we really love and really enjoy. And so I'm going to pass back over to, so I have trained in therapies as a result of doing this network marketing business. And and then that led on to other things, as some of you may who already know me know. I then got involved in a communities interest company. I was made redundant in 2020. I also did some coaching, and I still do that. So I'm doing 3 things: therapies, coaching, and this community work. But I realized, and I was struggling how I can I was seeing them all as separate or, disparate things, but actually they are all part of me, and they are all interweaving and intertwining. And I think sometimes we sort of struggle with that. We think, oh, I can't focus on one thing. I can't be good enough in any one area, but you are. You are all of these things. But anyway, without talking too much more about me, over to Bridget. I'd love you to talk about yourself, because, you are a powerful speaker. You've really highly influenced me. And I've looked, up to you, not sort of revered you. I won't want to say that, but put you a little bit on a pedestal. But you are an amazing, inspirational speaker and a guiding light for me. And, and what you've done with your life and your business is, it's a miracle. But it's knowing that we have the capacity to create miracles in our life. And over to you. Thank you, Bridget.
Wow, what a fine introduction. Thank you so much, Esther. How do I follow on from that? Well, I'll just fill in sort of like a few gaps in the process, and tell people a little bit about how I came to do what I do today. So I live on the South Coast in Dorset. I am a single mother of 3 grown-up children who are 32, 26, and 20. And I have, for over 20 years, I lived in Paris, and I had bricks and mortar businesses, first in hospitality. I bought my first business in Paris when I was 26. And I had that business for 5 years. And then for 15 years following on from there, I co-ran a luxury high-end fashion and manufacturing business with the father of my children, my ex, now my ex. And in 2008, 2009, it was a big economic crash. The business was no longer viable, put the key under the door, and I put the key under the door of my relationship, because even though materially and externally, you may well think that I had the dream life, actually I was dying inside for growth and expansion, and the relationship was not conducive to that. So it wasn't an overnight decision. It was difficult and painful and challenging, because obviously when your children are involved, then that's something. But I often say that change comes when it reaches a tipping point, and it's often that tipping point, isn't a knee-jerk thing. It sometimes builds up, and I said to Esther before we went live, it comes when the pain of change is less than the pain of not changing. And I'd reached that tipping point, and so I just one of the first books I read actually was Feel the Fear and Do It Anyway. I was like, right, I'm terrified, but I'm doing it anyway. And from then on, I started just consulting in style and image and fashion. And then the next thing, I was thinking, oh my goodness, this is actually something that isn't going to provide for me and my family in the way I want it to. And a friend of mine spoke to me about some incredible technology and beauty products. And I thought, okay, well, I'd be quite interested in having things stop going south. and also, I could see the potential from a business point of view, but just for the moment, as a client, for my clients, my styling clients, I didn't see the bigger picture. That came a little bit later in 2011. I was a big event in Paris, and I was like, oh my goodness, I can actually build an international business with this. Products that are results driven, have integrity, being mentored by incredible people, and I can scale it across the world with no scalable costs. I'm going to take this seriously. I had no idea what the process would be. I had no idea how I was going to do it. But as you said, Esther, we're in a pool of co-creativity and collaboration with other people who have the skills that I didn't have, and that I was able to lean on and have them as kind of like my scaffolding while I built my own business, if you like. And I hit the top of the company 6 years later, and now I'm 12 and a half years in, and we have businesses in over 20 countries throughout the world. But the personal growth that comes with that is really what we're going to touch on a little bit more today. So I'm just going to ask my daughter to close a window, because I can hear this road work. Ella, would you be so kind as to close a window, because I can hear loads of noise? Don't know what's going on there. All the windows are closed. Okay, never mind. So it's going to be noisy. Right, that's an interesting little distraction.
To be honest, Bridget, it comes across as a bit squeaky in the background, but it's not really that powerful, overpowering.
Thank goodness. Oh my goodness. So great timing. But there you are. Long live Monday mornings, right? And but yeah, the personal growth was something that really, really you know, hit me. And actually, I know what it is. It's something. Oh my god.
It's all happening. The beauty of lives.
Oh my goodness! Wait a minute. Let's see what's going on here. Right, I know what it is. It's my neighbour hoovering in the corridor.
Oh,
my cleaning lady. So bear with me, guys. I am just gonna like.
You can never know what's going to happen on a live, and that's for sure. But the thing is, it's just interesting, isn't it?
Yes. You know, so we were talking about, you know, things like birds of a feather flock together. Well, that which is likened to itself is drawn. Another way of describing exactly the same thing. So, you know, what have I done to attract this, you know, into my reality this morning? I have absolutely no idea whatsoever. But anyway, nonetheless. Oh, I know. I was thinking, I need another cleaner.
Oh.
This morning, I was like, I need somebody to come in and do all my washing and ironing as well as the cleaning. I can't be coping with this every morning. I need the cleaner shows up first thing, right?
Well, see, you did it, right?
There's always a reason here. And I think what's really interesting is that in this whole process, you know, whatever we're creating right now, is that we get what we think about whether we want it or not. Mm-hmm. And when we realize that we are the creators of our own reality, first of all, just like, that's just not possible. I would never have created this, that, and the other. But then when I started to realize, working with the knowledge and understanding of universal laws, then you start taking responsibility for what you're creating in your life. And it's often a bit ugly, right? It's just like, there's no way I would have created this body, this bank account, this boyfriend. that's not me.
Yeah.
Then when you start realizing it, then you actually feel quite free, because even though it's a responsibility, you are free to choose, as you already said. And I mean, you talk about the James Allen book, you know, and I remember getting 4 pages into that book and having to put it down. I felt actually physically sick, because I was thinking, because it was all, you know, stored with pain comes up with pain, right? And reading it, thinking, this is a tiny little book, isn't it? You know, and just
thinking, it's very short, but it's very powerful.
So powerful. Yeah. Actually, I need to revisit it. But yes, so here we are, the personal growth. So as you said, everything is created from within. And actually, when we focus on inner growth, more abundance in every area of our life is the natural byproduct. And the more we grow, the more abundance we receive in its physical form.
So we're now touching on this next question now. So the definition of what you interpret as expanded consciousness, isn't it? It's this yes. Elevation from within.
You know, the first thing we need to realize is that what we see here in its physical form is only a part of who we are.
Totally.
And the larger part of who we are is not something that we can see or hear or smell or taste or touch, but we can feel it. Some call it intuition, some call it a gut feeling, you know, whatever it might be. But that feeling that we get here when we know something is positive or negative is the larger part of us acting as a guidance system. So that's really the first thing. When you start to understand, you have that expansion of consciousness. It's what you see here isn't just me. So one of the analogies you could give, for example, is, you know, you go into the bathroom or the kitchen, you turn the tap on and the water comes out, but the water's got to come from somewhere that we can't see. Right. And it comes that comes through all the plumbing and through all the pipes and everything. We don't see all that, but it's coming through into our tap anyway in the kitchen or the bathroom. Right. This is exactly the same. What we see here, you know, we didn't just descend from nothing. We came from something else, which is the invisible. And when you start to realize that this is not just, this is only a fraction of who I am, it's also who I am here, you know, in the flesh and blood version, but there's a much larger part of me, which when I am become consciously aware of it and understand it, and of course believe it, right? Because that's, you know, you've got to believe something that you can't see, then you can start really thinking, okay, wow, there might be something interesting to this. What if I could tap into that larger part of me, that extra power, through my understanding and my awareness and my belief, to then channel that power through the physical form of me to create a better life? And that's the first thing of expanded consciousness. Now that takes a bit of time for me anyway. Everybody comes into this journey
to get your head around. Yes.
The whole thing is you have to accept you're never going to get your head around it.
But you're never going to get your head around it, because it's not a mental exercise, it's a feeling exercise. And exactly. You've got to feel the awareness of who you are, and it's in that I am statement, isn't it?
It is. And you know, we will, it's very it's so abstract that trying to put words to it reduces it to something that it's not. They say the words I am are probably the nearest that it is, but even there, it's still only a signpost to something which is not describable.
Yeah.
But you're right. The emotions that we feel, in general, they'll be positive or negative, and there's lots of different words we can add to those emotions to make them a little bit more specific. But those emotions we feel are the nearest we can get to the interpretation of that largest part of ourselves. And the emotions are triggered by our thought patterns. And so when we start to understand the correlation between thought and feeling and creation, then we're just like, all right, probably got some stuff to work out here. And where do thoughts come from? Our conditioning and our programming. And then we realize that our conditioning and our programming starts as soon as we're tiny babies, probably when we're in the womb, right? Not to mention all the past lives we've had, but that's a whole other topic.
That's another thing that I even go into sometimes in the energy work. But yeah,
we
overcomplicate
beings. Yeah. We're going to keep this basic and simple. You know, the minute we pop out, we're hearing words, we're feeling vibrations, we're in circumstances, you know, we're seeing, smelling, tasting, touching as a tiny little newborn. And that newborn actually for the first 7 years is very, very, very malleable in terms of its subconscious. So everything it sees, hears, experiences before the age of 7, you know, I mean, I think the Jesuits had a great saying, give me a child until he's 7 and I've got him for life. You know, it's an imprint, it's a blueprint. And then when we wake up, whenever that might be, some of us never do.
Some of us never do during this lifetime, yeah.
And we're just, for me, it was when I was 48. And I was like, oh my God, what a mess.
I was a little bit older than you, actually. I was when I woke up.
Well, I mean, I didn't wake up. I
was 50.
Yeah. Waking up is a big word. It's just kind of like this gradual thing coming out, some kind of like comatose slumber of, you know, just letting your thoughts, you know, and all your past conditioning guide you to suddenly it's like, well, we've got a bit of work to do, some new neural transmitters. I'm going to build some new neurotransmitters, new thought patterns, you know, I mean, this is, there's a great sentence in The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles. And he said, it's the hardest work that anybody could ever do, you know, is to learn how to change their thinking. Which is why most people never do it, because they get to a certain point, they're just way too hard. I'm just going to, you know.
Yeah. But I think it's also not just the thinking thing, it's the internalization of it, because, and you know, we can intellectually process and think things.
Correct.
But actually to embody it, which is all about how to manifest and changing the energy, the transmutation of energy is all about how we internalize it and embody it. So we can only do that through the emotions, because the emotions are the way we shift the energy in the body. So it's like, but obviously, as you say, there is a close correlation. So we've got to work on, you know, releasing all the stuff that doesn't serve us. So this is the hard work. It's all just knowing that is not serving us. It's really all just programmed stuff that is shit, basically. It's just, you know, messing up my life, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think initially then what I managed to, you know, in terms of living by, I mean, that's what we wanted to cover really, was this, okay, so you've got this expansion awareness, okay, I'm the creator of my own reality. I can focus my way into creating anything that I want to create. So if I can be, do, and have anything I want, what do I want? And how do I want it?
Yeah.
You know, and then we have to go into, you know, a process of really getting kind of
clear what we want,
specific about what we want, right?
Yeah.
And again, you know, there's a great, you know, if you stop 100 people in the street and said, you know, have you ever written down, you know, what you want in life? And they're just like, well, I've got this. That's my lot, isn't it? You know, they spend more time focusing where they're going to have their next pint at the weekend than they do on, you know, how to create an amazing life for themselves,
amazing
right?
Life. Yeah. Yeah.
So I started to understand that if I change my thoughts, I can change my life. And I was like, okay, let's get going. And then, of course, you go on this huge voyage of discovery, and it's never a long straight line, and you feel like you're progressing, and then you're not progressing, and then you're going up, down, and but somehow when you kind of take stock after a while, you can see that there's progress.
Yeah.
And up until, I suppose, about 3-4 years ago, I was very, 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 very clear about what I want, and I was guided by the fact, long story short, I got separated from my family, and I had one, you know, dominant intent was to reunite my family and be able to provide for them financially when I did. That was just like blinders on. So you talked about great difficulties. Out of great difficulties arises great change and opportunity.
Opportunities for change, yeah.
I think what it is that when we encounter these huge challenges, it becomes much more acute in our consciousness of what we do not want. And when we are very clear on what we do not want, then we get clear on what we do want.
Totally. I totally accept that and resonate. That does.
You know, so sometimes I say to people, look, you know, you're not sure what you want yet, but write down at least what you don't want. Write down what you don't want. And it's actually a lot easier for people to write down what they don't want
than what they do want. Yeah.
Okay. Tony Robbins says it very well. It's easier to run away from pain than it is to pursue pleasure. So being able to actually identify what you don't want. I don't want to wake up in the morning and think, excuse the term, saying different day, right? I don't want to wake up in the morning and have a feeling of, and not a fear in my stomach of how I'm going to pay the bills this month. I don't want to get up in the morning and feel that my body is tired and achy, or whatever that might be. I don't want to wake up in the morning and you know, be worried about my children, whatever it might be, right? So to help people, first of all, identify what they don't want, helps them then gravitate eventually to having a life of deliberately getting what they want. And sometimes people say, or there's another way of saying, just saying, I want to know what I want. I want to know what I want. What do I want? You know, and then just be prepared, be a little bit patient, and take a little notebook, and occasionally you have I know what I want. Put it down in a book, you know, and that's where the whole creative process then starts. When people start saying, you know, they're starting to get ideas, and then they go down the path of, yeah, but I couldn't have that. Yeah, but I couldn't have that. Oh my God. And then you go back to, in light of the fact I can be, do, or have anything I want, how do I want it, right? So you've got to work on those limitations and kind of chip them away, and it is a process. But once you get to that part of having identified some things that you want, and you want them badly enough to continue to pursue them, because, you know, motivation starts because you identify what you want, but actually discipline is what happens when you to maintain it, to actually get it to fruition. And I'm not talking about discipline of action. I'm talking about.
I wanted to jump in there because I said it's not actually doing the action. It's changing the consciousness. It's changing the awareness.
Yes, having the discipline to work on yourself every single day, and to that is where that's the work, in inverted commas.
That's the work. That's the hardest. It's changing.
I mean, I think that we can choose to feel that it's hard or easy.
Well, I suppose so. Yes, it is. Yeah, it is a perception. Is it hard or is it easy? And if you want to, you know,
I mean,
what we perceive.
Because this morning, I have to be honest here. So really, you know,
that's all right.
I was like, when does it get easier?
And then put yourself out on that.
I actually wrote that in my journal. I was like, for the love of God, when's it going to get easier? And then I remembered a quote by Jim Rohn. He says, things don't get easier, you just get better at the hard.
Oh.
And I was just like, and then I listened to some Abraham Hicks this morning. She said, it's actually not that difficult. You're just making it way too complicated. And I was like, well, there's the answer.
Exactly. I think we do belabor everything, and we make such a meal out of everything and a mountain out of a molehill.
Yeah.
And it's all about perception as well. It's if we're perceiving it to be hard, we make it hard. If we then perceive, oh, I'm going to make this easy, or it's going to be easy for me, you'll find that things start becoming easier. So, it's this. So let's not just apply this to the action taking. Let's apply this to the I can create a new belief. I can easily think I'm amazing, or I can easily think I'm powerful, and I'm a manifester that I can just quickly say, I'm going to have this today.
Yeah. It all comes down to this. So there's two parts of the creative process, which is, first of all, getting clear on what you want, not to a point where it feels like I want it so much and I feel negative about it. It's got to be a pure desire, a desire that gives you a positive emotion, fun.
That's the expanded element, isn't it? It's the expanded element.
So when you look at it, you're thinking, oh my God, I'm in the process, and it's exhilarating and exciting, and you're expecting it.
And you're totally different energy. It's a different dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, the basis of life is freedom, and the purpose of life is joy. Yeah. Right. When we work with that as a foundation stone,
right? Yes.
And life is supposed to be fun. Really? Probably not what we were told when we were kids. Work really hard and get your grades and get your.
And that's why we're stuck in limitation, because we always think it's going to be this struggle and this hard. We're expecting it to be.
Need everybody's approval, and you need to, you listen to your elders and do what you're told, and blah blah blah. And I was just like, I was really, 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 really good at school, and I got great grades, and I was always in the top percentages, and I ended up going to a privileged grammar school. But by the age of about 17, I was like, hang on a minute here. I started to question even back then, Yeah. So this journey didn't really start when I was 48. It probably started when I was about 16.
Long, yeah.
And I started to question things. I started questioning. I was raised in a particular religion. I started to question that, and I left, and things were already. I was already asking those kind of questions, and I think on the basis of, who is anybody else to tell me how to live my life? I couldn't accept that I had to be answerable to people as a grown-up. That was just impossible for me to even be conceptual. I've never had a job, and I've never had a boss. A couple of bar jobs when I was, sort of like getting through some bits and pieces. But essentially, I've never had a job per se. I was like, who is somebody to put their value on me? So that kind of rebellious spirit has always been in me. I've always been a bit of a maverick in that sense.
See, I'm in contrast, I want to say, because not everybody's in that position as you, but I'm a late developer, and I only really started my own business when I was on maternity leave. And as much as I know I made mistakes and I've learned from them, but when I had then when I was redundant then in COVID in 2020, and I thought, I don't want somebody calling the shots on my life. I had to know that I had to then start embracing the idea that I can create what I desire in my life, and not actually rely on other people to serve that dream for me, because it's not on them to do it. It's on me to do it.
Absolutely not. It's not for us to create other people's dreams, and it's not for them to create ours.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of the time I was listening to another, a capsule today about a lot of people really have this thing about helping other people. They really want to help other people, but I actually don't have that. I want to be the living example of how I help myself, so other people will be inspired to do it for themselves as well.
Yeah.
Because when we're very focused on helping other people, we actually take ourselves
out of the equation. Yeah, totally. I was going to say that.
And actually, I'm pretty selfish in that. And if people don't, if I encounter people that I don't feel good working with, or I don't feel in a positive, I don't feel that there's synchronicity, my vibration is, gets priority. My feeling gets priority. My good feeling gets priority. And it's not my responsibility to change other people so I feel better, and it's not my responsibility to change so I feel better. So nobody's responsible for that. And
and a part of this journey is understanding that we cannot change another person. They have to. It's all about free will, and this is free will, and we all have a choice. If they choose to stay where they are, stuck in their dilemmas and their challenges and their negativity, then that's fine. But our experience in this physical form is to be the shining example of raising our inner vibration, as you say. We have to only focus on our own internal change, and by doing so we become the change that we want to see in the world, as Gandhi would say.
Gandhi, being the change. And that's another thing, is that we are conditioned. I don't know whether it's just part of our society or maybe it's a worldwide thing, but always to please,
self-sacrifice,
look for other people's approval, and freedom starts with dropping the need for other people's approval. Freedom starts with understanding and choosing deliberately thoughts that serve us and make us feel good. Freedom comes, first of all, from understanding that we are free to choose how we live our lives. And freedom comes through understanding and then making a choice to understanding the law of attraction, for example, and then learning to understand that I have the freedom of the responsibility to work in accordance with those laws. So freedom, often people think of as a ton of money in the bank, or most people want four things. They want a great place to live, a ton of money in the bank, a fabulous body, and a hot lover in their bed. That's pretty much it, right? But first of all, when we start understanding the inner freedoms that we have first, then those outer freedoms actually just become natural byproducts, and so that's when we can really start deliberately creating and reprogramming our thoughts. And for me anyway, it's been, some people say it's like, it's been 95% of my journey. It's 100% of the journey is what's going on inside, and it all starts there. So to have a real, is in the Neville Goddard book, who's one of my favorite authors, he says, transformation starts with a real, determined, irreversible, deep desire for personal transformation. That desire has to be there for change internally. And then the master appears, and the friend appears, and and if I'm still here with you, Esther, it's because you're one of those amazing people. Yeah.
Thank you, Bridget. That's so touchingly, kind of you, really. Yeah, and I think I definitely think when you're in the vibration of really, truly amazing people, we feed into each other. We really elevate each other, and I glean new perspectives all the time when I interact with those that are on this inner journey. Definitely. And sometimes when we're not on our own, we can be a little bit blinkered, and even when we're doing this spiritual work, we can feel a bit blinkered and a little bit stuck. We get sort of easily slide back into maybe a lower level of a version of ourselves. But when we see others rise, and we actually move with them as well. So this is why we say we are the change. We have to be the change that we want to see in this world, and that's how it happens as well. So it's all the expanding consciousness of self is actually the expanded consciousness of the planet and of the universe, to be honest. So this is why we say one person's journey is not just one person, it's more than that. It's and this is all part of this law of divine oneness, that we are all interwoven and interconnected. So and it's we're all plugged into this one source, whatever you want to equate that to. And Marianne Williamson will say, the source is the electricity, whether you want to call it God or whatever, and we are the lamps, but we have to be plugged in to get that. So this is what about the expanded consciousness is about being plugged in, and not totally disconnected from ourselves, from other people, from this universe. Once we sort of start plugging ourselves in, we start firing ourselves up.
Yes.
And it's then directing, channeling that energy, that source in a way that's creating our most joyful life for ourselves, and also being that example for others.
I mean, I'm a really practical spiritualist. You know, my first thing is, I know I have to do this, that, and the other, but how? How do I do it? How do I do it?
It's not the how. I think we'll have cover that in a separate one, because we want to know the how. We'll talk about what compels us to doing the how all the time on thinking, and where that comes from.
Yeah, the daily habits. The daily habits. How to live with an expanded consciousness. That's definitely a huge topic for next time.
Yeah, definitely. So I think we'll, I don't know whether you've got anything else to add at the moment, Bridget. I think we've covered quite a bit. I know we had
quite a bit. It's been a wonderful exchange. I'm super grateful to be able to start my week like this. It's put me in a really on my high flying disc.
So we're definitely going to follow up again. Please do. I know a couple of people have dipped in and out of the live. Please do drop your comments, what your feedback is, what you'd like to learn more about. We'd love to hear that, because obviously that will help us guide the flow of this. We're always happy to help. You know, we are helping ourselves on this journey, don't forget. The
only one that's benefiting is us. Who cares about the rest?
The thing is, somebody said to me when I did a live, is that I love the way you just go live. You don't care whether anybody's looking or not. And I said, it doesn't matter, because this is my inner journey.
Yes.
And I'm doing this for myself. And if other people get to benefit, then so be it. It's the byproduct. But and I think this is what we're here for as well. And we're doing this for ourselves, but we also know if anybody is in that place where they need to hear this, then they will hear it, and it will be in divine timing for them.
Absolutely. Amen to that.
So don't forget to follow us. We're going to put this on YouTube, so you can follow my YouTube channel, Energy Transformations. But they will continue to go live. We hope to do this on a weekly basis? We were endeavouring. I don't know.
Let's do 6 or 8 of these on a weekly basis. We'll never run out of topics. Let's face it.
We've got plenty of content, more intriguing and mind-boggling, and energy riveting. So we'll just keep in tune, or keep a wire to plug into this content, and I'm sure you'll get some takeaways from it. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
Bridget. I appreciate you being here and sharing this.
I appreciate you.
Being part of my journey too. Thank you.
Absolutely. Wishing you and everybody who's watching a wonderful week. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, same here.
Bye-bye.